I forgot to go live. Oh, I'm talking about the YouTube. Yeah, it's the YouTube part is for recording. And I need to mute the YouTube because that is feeding back into me and that is a tad confusing. Hear myself. So, do you think anyone else will pop by? How's the rugby and show? Hmm. Out. Yeah, so I also need to get the current PowerPoint up and running. Yeah, let's go with that. Not sure if anyone else will join now. Hopefully they do, but I'm not. Doesn't really matter. It's gonna be recorded. And first, any questions you two about DNS or anything in particular? Hey, Izzy. Etsy. I've no idea how to pronounce your name. Oh, Nick. It's not that type of name service, kid. You, kind of. Hey, how are you? Yay. Well, it won't let you customize your real life name, Kaden, if that's what you're wondering. So, could not resist. Though, have you actually made it official yet? I hear silence. That says a lot. uh, uh, you haven't actually made it official yet, have you? Mm. Mm. Yeah, so hope you like the camera. It's a nice one, I think. I've also got the normal background on YouTube. YouTube is there for recording. I don't think audio from the Discord is going to come through, so anytime you ask a question, I'm going to repeat it for the recording and then answer it, if that's okay with you folks. Great. And okay, so DNS. DNS is really. Oh, and the other thing is that all the slides are up now. Well, they've been up before, but I put the link explicitly this time. So. Oh, it's up. I checked. See, this is public Skynet slide Skynet for DNS. For DNS here. Ah. Oh yeah, it's public. That's Skynet. It's a good place to shove on this stuff. uh, so DNS. Oh, and another thing is I have disabled the using the click to move forward and back because that made copying from slides really difficult. That's disabled now, so that's good. Uh, yes. Yeah, because uh, whoever was beside me at the last Wednesday, he was having a rough time moving. You know I think it was the SSH key setup. Yeah, the SSH key setup. Rough time at that because it kept moving under him. So, overview of it. TNS is both really simple and really complex. It translates human domains into something computers can understand. So computers are fucking stupid. They can only understand ones and zeros. So we've got to translate a bit. This is from the current DNS server. So we have stuff like Skynet, which is the Skynet.skynet.ie, is at this address, CA at kind of, and then the star, which you probably all know as a regex for match everything, is common name for Skynet. CNAME is common name, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So this means that anything at users.skynet.ie is at this IP address. And in the background, the way IP addresses work is that this number here, it goes up to 254, which, as you know, is a fairly special number in computer science because that is 2 to the power of 8, isn't it? Yeah, 8. So again, it's translated down to just pure binary then. Not really useful for us if you're doing the computer science course. It does go into it. I think with Kieran at McNamee, and oh, I really wish I could go back to Kieran. Kieran was just a dote. So that's really simple. You can also use DNS to shove in useful information. So this here is probably something that you won't fully recognize too much, but it's basically a text file in the DNS. And so all this is saying is that for Skynet.ie, the only folks who are allowed to send mail is this server here, mail.skynet.ie. So if you know about, you have the Skynet account, right? And you have your email on it, mail.skynet.ie, you can go username like Caden@skynet.ie or Easy@skynet.ie, or I cannot remember yours, Eliza, at skynet.ie, and that's grand. It basically just means that only the mail server here is the one that's allowed to actually send the mail. You won't connect into it, and I may go on in more detail in, I'm not sure exactly when, in the future anyway, about the email servers. And so this just locks it down. So if anyone ever sends mail from another server, pretending to be at Skynet.de, then this one just say, yeah, they're not legit. And so structure is hierarchy and delegated. Hierarchy is like the patriarchy, but actually good. There is no good patriarchy. I can hear you laughing, Kaden. The hammer. Please, the hammer. So, the way it works is that there's a root server, or several root servers somewhere in the world. I'm not sure where they are, but I think it's ICANN that controls them, the internet something something something. Long story short is I don't care who they are, they just have the root servers. And what they do is they say, yeah, this is where you can find, it points you to the next set of servers, which would be the top level domain servers. So IE, COM, EU, it says if you want to know more about these, go to these places. And so for .ie, there is the IEDR, IE domain registry. I think they rebranded to weare.ie, IEDR. Can't remember offhand. Yeah, weare.ie, and oh, this doesn't work so well. So yeah, these folks are the folks that say, yeah, we know where all the .ie domains are. And then it points it to the next layer of the chain. So when you know where these are, they can say, oh yeah, I know where the DNS server for Skynet.ie is, and it points to them, which in this case would be us, which would be 193.1.99.120. If you want to see it in, yeah, and come back to it again. So basically, there's a DNS record in the IEDR that says, yeah, look at this particular IP address. And you can probably see where this is going. Things get passed down the chain slowly. And normally, you don't actually have to go to the root servers to figure out a DNS record, because things are cached. Caches are fantastic. So it's actually recursive, which is also interesting. Yeah, so domain servers. And then we run our own domain servers on DNS servers, actually, on nameserver1.skynet.ie and nameserver2.skynet.ie, otherwise known as vendetta.skynet.ie and vigil.skynet.ie. So some bit of context about the names is that both of those names, Vendetta and Vigil, come from Mass Effect. Technically not AI, but I just love saying Vendetta and Vigil. There's nothing so enjoyable as saying, oh yeah, check out Vendetta. I need a better sense of humor sometimes. And then so we've got Skynet.ie, right? We also have, because of historical reasons, control over csn.un.ie. So that's Clubs and Societies Network, I think, .un.ie, and we also have un.comsoc.ie. So you remember this here where I said that they delegated to DNS to servers? Well, if you look at the CSN one, it means that UN's DNS server is delegating to us for this domain here. It just, and so domains essentially work backwards. So it starts at before the .ie, then it goes to the .ie, then the UL, then the CSN. Yeah. What do you mean? Kind of. So NS1.skynet.ie is basically a name service. We have a piece of software called Bind9 that's running. That just displays to the world what our DNS records are, and it can be reached at those two addresses. It can also be reached by the IP address as well, which is 192.1.99.120, and I think it's 109 is the other one. If that's what you're asking.
I mean, how do those addresses relate to the ASN.UNL.E?
Oh, they don't, not directly. It basically is if you want to find out more information about these addresses, you go to this address essentially. It won't work in a web browser, and we can come to that in a few minutes. But this is basically where you go to find information on the domains that we have ownership or control over. So that'd be the Skynet.ie, csn.un.e, and uncomsoc.ie. Does that make sense for you?
Could I put all of the Skynet, the ns1.skynet.e above the other two of ASN.UL.E and uncomsoc.e?
Oh no, it's literally just a place where you find out information. That's all.
Okay, I don't understand enough to understand what that means.
We'll hopefully get to it in a bit. So, viewing DNS records. So, first of all, Eliza, you can do all the NixOS stuff again. There was an issue that was introduced in Nix, and I'm gonna be putting in a patch to fix it on Nix itself. So that'd be fun, but you just have to pull in the latest updates from our own repo, and it'll just work. Oh, great! Did it work for you?
I can go into the demo environment.
Great. So basically, when you're in it, if you run this command, build keep result on Vendetta, I would recommend after you pull the latest patch of stuff, just for clarity. It will actually it will create this folder .gc roots, and if you do just without the on part, like on Vendetta, it will build all of these, and these are symlinks, so if you can just cd into them, and there's going to be a pile of information. So if I go see the Vendetta one there, ls, and then you see that there's all these different folders inside, folders and files. You can probably see where some of them will go. etc is the one that's interesting to us, and if we go cat gc roots node vendetta blah 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 .ie, and I'm gonna make this big because it shows the DNS file, the file that's actually saved, and for ease of use I've actually just outputted it into an actual file. So this is what the DNS file looks like. Is there anything more here? Oh yeah, we can come back to the DNS in a second.
I went to the coordinate build and it shows me an error. A build error.
Pardon me?
The coordinate build on the data gives me a build error.
Oh.
I just pasted it here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll come back to it properly in a few minutes. The rest of the stuff shouldn't take too long, but thank you for being the beta tester. You're finding out a pile of stuff.
Yeah. My setup's low, I don't know.
One environment for data, no head. Huh. That's new. So, anyway, this is the file that bind9, the DNS server, looks at and says, oh yeah, this is on the config for DNS. So Agent Jones, you can see the server names here. I'm gonna zoom in a bit just because I've got a bigger screen, so things get a bit lost. So Agent Jones is at 192.72 essentially, and then the Skynet server is at 165. You can see the rest of them there, so that makes sense, right? It tells you where to find these servers. Actually, I'm going to go one last thing. See the at here? At means whatever domain you're using. So in our case, this is skynet.ie. So skynet.skynet.ie is at this address. Neuromancer.skynet.ie is at this address. That makes sense for you? Great. And there's a few other non-server names that have to have A addresses. You can see names of 1 and 2 are here just for because they have to have it. The actual root address, which root is the skynet.ie address, is at this one. You can probably recognize that as the same one that Earth is at. Yes, Earth is an AI. And go read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's good fun. And then here are the C names. So C names are, I can't remember, it's like this, or commonly known as that. So 2016, that's Skynet.ie, is also known as the Earth server. Same with these. There's a bit of formatting in the code part to get things just orderly and formatted nicely. ULFM is at Galatea. All the game stuff is together. You can see that we have, it's basically just Minecraft. Then we have the account stuff for the sign up, if you recall that, and how it just did not work. We've got the actual CNAME for games is at Optimus, although if I really wanted, you can set it to be Optimus up here as well, and that can make sense. May actually end up doing that, but that's a side matter. And then the one I used in the example, users.skynet.ie, that's here as well. And then there's the text ones. There's more there that is useful. Most of this is eman stuff. Then there's the mail domains, mail records. The GitLab server has to have its own mail server for things that work. And again, more eman stuff. So there's that. And that's fairly neatly organized, right? But the code for it is a tad more interesting. So let's go and start where you actually input records. So you know, on every application here in the NixOS, there are various things like there's games and Discord, email, firewall, blah blah blah. You know, on that. Possibly, yeah. And you import various things into other applications. So in email, for example, we need to be able to have add a DNS record. So we import the DNS config file into here. And that gives us a few things we can work with. The key part for us right now is Skynet DNS.records equals an array. And see this here? This is how you add an email record in Skynet. Now, you just say what the left hand side is, which is mail, the type of it, which is an A1, and the value, which is in this case an IP address of the host. And if we hop back to mail.skynet.ie, where is this? Oh, yes. So mail, an A record, an IP address. And I'm gonna split this right. Split and move right. Oh god, that made both small. So see how this record here, or this entry into this array here, became this. Thoughts? Whatnot? Is that kind of confusing for anyone or anything? Yeah, and this is also why the DNS record stuff that I have on the GitLab issues, it's why I say that it's something that a Skynet trainee, which all of you are, should be able to do relatively easy. It's adding the config. You can see that the other stuff here, like domain dot, is doing the SFP1, which if I scroll down here and slightly zoom out, you can see that on this becomes this. And now you can see the other records being added. There's a pointer record here, which we can get to in a minute. There's the service records, blah blah blah. So that is roughly how you translate the what would this be? The attribute set to the actual record in DNS. Now I'm gonna go back to the slides here because I went way off track way too early, but that's not a bad thing. So those are the plain records, these ones here. They're the ones that you normally see when you look up stuff. But we also have what's called reverse DNS records, and they allow you to, from the IP address, to get the domains at that IP address, which is really fucking powerful. And so if you do this command, cat blah blah blah, after you've compiled it, and I'll get back to you in a few minutes just to make sure you can actually compile it. Oh yeah, I had it just minimized down. So if I go paste and bang, this is a very short file in comparison, and you can see it's just numbers on the left, pointer, and then a domain on the right. That seems weird, right? Well, what this allows you to do is to, oh yeah, I'll come back to that tool in a minute. So say you go host 193.1.99.175. You know the IP address, but you don't know what's there. So if you put that in, it will output a series of lines that tell you how you got to that point. Oh yeah, oh, this I had to zoom as well. That's neat. So it starts off by looking up this file here, whoever owns that. Again, it's a delegated system, so whoever's above us delegates down and down and down. I think it's ICT that delegates to us in the last case. And then it looks up in the particular file that, oh, GLaDOS.skynet.e is in this file. And then it goes, oh, yeah, it's GLaDOS.skynet.e, and you can see that 75 193.1.99.75 points to GLaDOS.skynet.e. And so, boom, you now know what's at GLaDOS.skynet.e. It's GLaDOS, and it's also GitLab, all in one. Any other ones? Oh yes, 120. So, wait, no, Geo would be probably better, 76. So Geo is known, this address, which we know goes to Geo, is also known as mail.skynet.ie. because why not? Vendetta, which is 120. Oh, Vendetta should have been marked as. Oh, it's just the addresses. That's something new every day. How's that for you? The fact that you can take the IP address and look up what DNS records are there.
Okay, so if I take host and that's the daily info 193.99.76.
Hmm.
It's wait, I pasted in the chat.
Pasting. Yeah. It tells you what's at that IP address. If you do 111, it will go to 1.1.1.1 because Cloudflare owns this domain. Well, they own the one domain and they own the subdomain, and yeah. So you can actually go to this address here. I'm very wide tangent for the fun of it. So if you go to there we go, 1.1.1.1 brings you up to Cloudflare's 1.1.1 advertising one. So again, that is probably one off topic. We need to reorder how I put the slides. The other part is validating. Now, the main problem with any of the stuff is that it's hard to actually validate, is this correct? Will it work? But there's a nice easy way to do that, and if you take the entire file, lop it into this site here, the binds.jamiewood.io, and if you put Skynet.ie in the box here and click go, it is going to go and check the entire file, and if there's any errors it will tell you. Unfortunately, some of those errors are pain in the ass to work with. What one should we change? Can't really think of any good way to effect this up. Basically, you can take the file that there's instructions on how to get it up higher, lob it in here, and then tell you if it's correct or not. That's without even deploying it to the DNS server. It's a good way to test it before actually implementing it. Not perfect, but it is grand. So do dig.skynet.ie in your command lines, in your terminals, and you should get something like, there we go, dig.skynet.ie, this output here. This is the DNS, I'm not sure what dig actually means, but doesn't really matter as long as you know how to use it. So dig will get you, when you search for Skynet D, it will go, oh yeah, I know where that is. If you go Skynet D, it will tell you that it's at that IP address. But what if you want to go for something like server? Oh, server that users. Yeah, I know the records get quite long for us, but it's often easier to have really. Oh, user. Huh. Why is this not? Oh, probably because it's a. There we go. is this not working? Anyway, so I'm saying anyway a lot. If you go dig.skynet.ie at nameserver1.skynet.ie, it will directly query our name server, and it will get you the IP address back of what's at that domain. So the two commands here, dig and host, they're opposite ends of the same spectrum, if that makes sense. How are you, Samir? Doing well? Oh, Milan is in the other chat. I just realized that now. And CM2K as well. Who's CM2K? Cannot remember. Yeah. Yeah, use his time to explore the NixOS webpo. So this is... I'm gonna make a slight apology. The DNS Nix file is complex. It is probably the single most complex file that we have in the entire thing, and that's because it has to get a very specific format, it has to get it right, and it has to ensure things get updated. And the reason why this one over all others is so important is because how do you know where to find the other ones if this one fucks up? So remember last week how I showed you stuff like functions and whatnot for Nix? You can see a couple of things here, like IP pointer to int takes in an IP address, strips out extraneous information and returns it. Same with all these functions here, so many functions. But this file should be a bit familiar. I'm going to split and move right on this one. Why does it... reset to 13. So if you take a look at this file and the one on the right, notice any similarities? Anyone notice any similarities? Did I get muted again? Oh great. So see this text bit here? STL 1 minute, STL 1 minute. Variable's been shoved in here. The overall format here is the same as this sec.
I've seen that in it's Swift. It's interpolation.
Yep. We're embedding variables inside the string essentially. And eventually there's a few other functions and whatnot, but it gets written to the file system on the server itself. But you can begin to see like the server records A, and then there's this, which somehow relates to all of this. And this, yeah. One of the biggest problems that we had with own Skynet was when I went digging into it. Let's bring it up. I've got a copy of it on my own. I've got a copy of the owned DNS on my home lab, GitLab. So college, computer soc, notes, because I had a terrible naming scheme. So the main problem that we had was that everything was out of date. I was finding stuff that was that was decommissioned a decade before. which was not that great. So here is the old Skynet stuff, and see this record here, Canutron? Canutron was gone by the time I got to college in 2012. Like, Skynet was no longer using that server for a decade. And then the other part is, look how long this is. It goes 284 lines, and there is so much in here that was not relevant or not used. There was no real good way to keep it updated, which is where, remember that thing earlier about the array with the attribute set? The whole idea of that is you keep the configuration of the DNS right beside the rest of the application. So for the games, for example, it keeps the DNS records right beside the configuration for the games. Because when you have things separated, it's harder to visualize in your head. So yeah, back to this. You can see that somehow it takes all that array and turns it into this. The same with every other record in this file. Any questions on that? And we'll ask Hayden and Kwanzi, I think. So, anyone on the YouTube or Discord, any questions on that? None? I'm going to take that as...
Wait, what does the 31 mean on the format it's passed into the format thing?
31 spaces.
Oh, 31 spaces, okay.
Well, I'd see 32, but 31 brings you up to there. So there's one little space for spacing. You can see that the limiting factor is in here, because this one is 31 characters long, which means that if it went a bit more, it would just bump up against the edge of it, which is not ideal. There is, remember how I showed you the file for the reverse DNS? This is where it's created. Same idea. Takes a string, puts all the values into it, and returns out the file. Another important part is, see this current date? This is kind of important because it counts as a revision. So every time you update a DNS file, you have to bump up this number. Because how else will other servers know if this config is valid or not? Because when they do queries, they cache it. And the only way they would know that there's new records or whatnot is if this number has incremented upward. And you can see that the number we're using is current date. There's a function up in the file that just every time this is updated, it gets a new number, a new date. There's a few other domains that have been passed to us for some reason. I cannot remember why, but there's that. And there's this entire thing about, oh yeah, the other part is these DNS servers, they count as the DNS servers for the entire cluster. So instead of each server checking up with a one like 1.1.1.1 or whatever parent ones are available, it checks up our own DNS servers. There's a bit here about creating the fan zone. So these have to create files in the /etc folder, and there's a path to it. You can see that the file path is etc Skynet DNS domain. Again, this is a function. So many functions in this. The fun part is the core part of the file starts here, and we're 219 lines in. The other part is, you remember how if I go to games.nix here, it has the Skynet DNS.records? When somehow they all have to be merged into one big array, and then they have to be sorted out into different types of records that they are. So this does most of that work. It was a fucking pain in the ass to write, because I was testing things out live at the time. Again, folks, don't test on live servers, things go bad. I do not recommend. Another function to get name servers. There's so much configuration here. So, yes, this is where we get the Skynet DNS options. You have server here, which if I open up Vendetta, which is in machines and Vendetta, said yes. So Skynet DNS server enable is true, primary is true, and the IP address is passed in, and then the normal record stuff. So the enabled true means that this machine, Vendetta, hosts the DNS server. That it's a primary means that it's name server 1. You can see this function here. If config primary, it's name server 1, otherwise it's name server 2. Again, so...
Wait, so is NS2, is that just like redundancy backup? It doesn't actually do anything?
Oh, it does.
NS,
Yeah, that's basically it. So originally the terminology was master-slave. Like there's the master one, where you know, and there's the slave one, which is it copies everything from master. So we have two DNS servers. We have one that is physical and another that is virtual. The physical one is one of the ones in the rack. If you've been to a server room, I have pointed it out. I'll try to, if you recall. The other one is virtual and is in Jarvis, the VM host. Yeah, this is just a big long file with fuller config. I've tried to have it to be just working just right, so you don't actually have to fuck around with DNS. Bind, as I said earlier, is the DNS server itself. Stuff like the forwarders, where we get records, because we have to query to get records for other domains. So like if you want to know where, what is it, google.com is, you have to go to one of these IP addresses and get a query of where google.ie is. So there's that. Cache networks. These are the networks that are allowed to query this one as a local DNS server. Otherwise, it's barred. What this means is that on our local network, all of the machines are able to use name server 1 and name server 2 to look up other sites that we do not own. Anyone outside of it is not. There was a problem originally where all the IP addresses coming in were of the ITD router, and that meant that anyone could use our servers for a DNS amplification attack, which is not good. It basically meant that we were spamming folks again. Uh, there's so much. It's the small details that I don't ever want to think about. And then, this is where the hands-off part is. So, we're editing the systemd service for bind. Before it starts, it deletes all the journal files and the journal backup files, and it restarts whenever the Skynet.e domain is updated. Okay, any questions? There's a fuck ton of information there. I hope I have not gone completely over your heads.
Wait, so the only thing running on the, is it Vendetta, the NS1, is it just the bind 9 program?
Basically, yeah. It's a small, because it's physical, because it's owned, it doesn't have to be that powerful. It just has to be there and answer queries. The same with the VM host Vigil. The VM1 Vigil, it does not have to be powerful. I think it's got what? 1 gig of RAM and 1 CPU core, and it's perfectly happy. If there's no real more questions, there are 2 issues that are open, 21 and 33, that relate to it. One is, okay, you shut up. One is activate demarc policy. There's a bit in the Google one about it. Basically, to update the record to include stuff like this, whoever's doing it will need to research it up a tad. The other one is for email. So you can have your Skynet.e address email on your phone. The one, if you're using Android, to use would be K9 Mail. It's actually owned, I think, by Thunderbird, which is Firefox. But it has a slight problem. It expects imap.skynet.e to be instead of mail.skynet.e. So for this to just work, 3 new domains will have to be added: imap.skynet.e, which is a CNAME of mail, pop3, and smtp. Yeah, so any questions? I know there's been a fuck ton of information, and again, I apologize for that. I honestly thought this would take about a half an hour.
Wait, so for that K9 mail thing, would that just be like going into the like Nix files and then manually like setting up these things?
Yeah, basically that. So in the email one, if I go into the email one, wait, why is it? There we go. So you see how there's all the records already there? It'll probably be just copy, paste, IMAP, and it'll be a CNAME, and then the value would be mail. Something like that. Formatting will have to be run on it, but I think that's it. Oh, SMTP. Oh wait, yeah, it is IMAP first. So IMAP goes to that. It's a CNAME of mail. And formatting will have to be run just to make it nice and uniform. The same with the other 2 domains. Not much all in all, but it adds the record.
So how do we know if it works? Is there like a way to test, like without like just pushing into the main?
Yeah, the instructions are actually on the slides. So you run the Chimera build. So if I do Chimera build now on Vendetta, if you take away the on Vendetta, it's going to burn all of the programs, all of the servers. Burned means just keep it locally, and keep the result means to have it in the folder here. And why is that? Why? This was working.
CD capital, I think. Is it?
What?
CNAME is lowercase. Like scroll down on the error.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's C fully capital. That's what I said.
Where does it say? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Not one of. Yeah. You see, this. Even I can fuck up things. Very easily, too, for the mind you. But yeah, only these types of records are allowed. They can be added. Like, I added MX yesterday, for example. It's gonna.
That's not warning when you do the build. Like the gate tree is dirty, but what was that mean?
So, the flakes use the Git to keep track of everything. And see how this file is modified? That's what it means by dirty. It means that there are files not committed, not finalized, essentially. And what's the other command? And I am gonna cap this, paste, and I'm gonna pop it into the temp. So I just redirected the output into the temp file, which is here. And what was it that we added? Oh yes. Oh yeah, it was a CNAME, and yes, you see here, IMAP, CNAME, mail. So because added here, it came out to be here. Does that answer your question on how to test it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as it like shows up.
Okay. Yeah. So there's the Chimera bound. There is the DNS validator here, and between those two, you can check out the DNS fairly easily. What about you, Eliza? Not good for you?
Oh, well. Yeah,
Any other questions, you two?
Wait, so the other DMARC thing, where would you do that?
It's it's a record.
This is-
In the record for the email, because it's in the email. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, we're already on email. There is a DMARC one here already. Its values are currently DMARC 1 P none, which is the bare basic of it. This record can also include an email address on where to send mail that is sent using, in big quotes, our mail server, or not using the mail server. So anyone that receives a mail not sent by mail.skynet.ie, it will be sent to that whatever address is put in that DMARC record. Pine also popped in a good video on the DNS as a whole. Give that a watch, listen, whatnot. He's better at that sort of thing than I am, I think. So, if there's no more questions, I'm probably in the actual video here, but I'm probably hang on in voice for a little while more. Okay.